Hi, everybody. Hello, my sugar bears. Happy Monday. It is the beginning of a new week, and I wanted to do this before it ended. So I wanted to tell my coming out story. Happy National Coming Out Day to all of my gay, transgender, bi, lesbian, non-binary, non-gender conforming. Um, am I missing anybody? People, happy coming out day. You know. But I wanted to share my story with you. So I hope you guys are ready, honey. It's a doozy. So I came out when I was 16. I don't, and I'll be honest, I was one of those gay people that didn't know he was gay. I was one of those gay people where you knew I was gay, but I didn't know it. And I remember my mother actually asking me, excuse me, asking me directly. Well, wait. Let me go back. Let me rewind. Hold on. So before I go into get deeper into my story, first of all, make sure you like, make sure you comment, and most of all, make sure you subscribe. Become a part of the Sugar Bear family. You know, I'm inconsistent as I don't get out, okay? But I am coming on here and I am going to do a lot more, okay? But I really want you guys to join the Sugar Bear family. Become a Sugar Bear. Do it for me, honey. Do it for Mama Sugar Bear. Anyway, so so getting back to my story. So came out when I was 16. And I grew up in a very, I wouldn't call it religious household, but conservative household. And my mother every now and again would take my sister out of church. I have one older sister. We're 5 years apart, so we're very different. And I can remember, I think I remember experiencing feelings of me being different going back to middle school or junior high. So I would say like it started when I was in eighth grade. No, let me go back. When I was in sixth grade. And I don't know if you guys remember, but remember the show Saved by the Bell? I had a crush on Mario Lopez, aka AC Slater. And I still have a crush on him. Not as bad as I did then. But I'll say this, honey, he was my admissions material. Yes, honey, he was my admissions material growing up. Um, and like I said, I was one of those gay people that I knew I was different, but I didn't know I was gay. But then to other people, they automatically assumed that I was gay. So they knew before I knew. And I remember my mother asking me when she was going through her church, because my mother would go through like her churchy phases. She would go through her churchy phases. And I remember her asking me, we went to this church in Springfield, Missouri called New Faith Tabernacle. It's amazing what you can remember. Excuse me, y'all. I just had dinner. And I remember this guy coming up to me. He was in the choir, and he was very gay, honey. He was very flamboyant, like myself. And he came up to me. He was like, "Hello, is this your first time ever at New Faith Tabernacle?" And that's the way he talked, and I loved him for it. New Faith Tabernacle in Springfield, Missouri. Thank you for. I got to give y'all a shout out. Thank y'all. And I remember my mother, after we went to go visit this church, and my mother was like in the car. She was like, "So I just had to ask you, are you gay?" And I'm like, "Of course not, mother. Of course not. I'm not fruity." Woo! Okay. And so fast forward to maybe eighth grade, right? No, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to okay. So in sixth grade, I kind of figured that I might have been gay because there was like okay, all my guy friends, and I ain't gonna name their names, honey. Howard Johnson, and that I kid you not, I went to school with a guy by the name of Howard Johnson and his sister Mindy. Oh, some else child. And they were blacksmith before blacksmith became a thing. Yes. Um and I had a crush on him. I had a crush on Levi Johnson. A lot of Levi's in this town. Levi Johnson, Levi Smith, it's so amazing how much I remember. Jamie Donnelly. Yeah. Had crushes on all my guy friends. So much so that I invited my guy friends over for a slumber party. Okay. And you couldn't, and at the time I didn't know I was gay. Like I didn't know, but I was like, I just want to invite all, the guys over for a party. And it's amazing how having an all-male slumber party appeals to me even now. Anyway, but with different repercussions. So invite them over, we drink, and we didn't of course, like pizza, soda. And mind you, they out here talking about sex and cherry pop. I didn't know what cherry pop was. It basically it meant when somebody was losing their virginity. Had no clue. And this is my gay ass. I'm out here lip syncing to Tina Turner. The What's Up Got to Do with the soundtrack? Disco Inferno. And fast forward to, I would say, 8th grade. I kind of knew I was gay, but I didn't know, really. And so around that time, I believe, because I had graduated and I was about to get into high school. So during that summer, I went to go visit the man who I thought was my father. That's a whole nother story time for another day. And I will tell that story. So the man who I thought was my daddy. So went to go visit him, went to Philadelphia. And while there, I met these people who I thought were who I was led to believe were my cousins. And it was Brandon, Brian, and it was I forgot the person's name. And I can hear his voice because he kind of reminded me of Mace, the rapper Mace, by the way he spoke. And then he had a friend named Joey. And honey, when I met Joey, something in me something that was bubbling under just rose up in me, like sea foam. The goddess in me was born. I was like, oh. And Joey looked a lot like, his name was Joey Alvarez. Joey looked a lot like, if you guys have ever seen Selena or I Like It Like That, that's who Joey looked like. He looked just like John Sater. And to this day, I have a crush on John Sater. And and I hung around with them. I had a blast. It was in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, has a special place in my heart. It really does. And one day, Joey comes over and we're talking, and we're just talking, rapping, And before I knew it, Joey and I started making out. And when I tell you, it was the best kiss ever. I've yet to experience a kiss like that. And I remember him saying, let's go to who I assumed at the time was my cousin. Let's go up to his room. So we go up the stairs and honey, he's rubbing on me and rubbing on this boy, honey. And I'm like, yes, this is what I've been wanting. This is what I've been missing, And because in the interim of our conversation, I'm telling him that I'm struggling with my sexuality, but I think I might be confused. Because mind you, this was in the days of, like at the beginnings of the internet. This was during Netscape and ICQ and AOL and AOL chat rooms, things like that. In the very, very beginnings of BGC. And shout out if you know what BGC is. Excuse me, my God, I keep burping. I am so sorry, y'all. So, so we go up the stairs and we end up making a detour to the bathroom. And we're making out. And right as I'm about to go in for the kill, and you know what kill I'm talking about, okay? We hear a knock on the door. Is anybody in there? And I'm mad because I'm like, oh, like I'm mad. I'm like, ugh. So that ends, okay? I never see him, never hear from him again. Now, mind you, this was when I was a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And I used to write these, like the people in Philadelphia, I will say this. When I came back from Philly, I came back sad, but happy because I knew by then, I came out to myself by that time. I knew I was definitely gay. I was like, okay, I made out with a man. I think I like men. And also during the time, I would go online and look at pornography. And one of my favorite sites to visit all the time, there were two. Actually, there were three. No, let me think back. There were four. So gay.com, I used to go to the teen chat rooms and I would do cyber sex and honey, I was a little freak back in the day. I'm thinking back. And I would go in the chat rooms and I'm 16 talking to men that are grown, okay? Just being hot in the coochie. And and um and another, and then like, let me see, because it was gay.com for me. It was La Mancha Video. If you know who and what La Mancha Video was, drop it down in the comments below. You will know what I'm talking about. Oh, the Latin fan club, the Latino fan club. Those were my go-tos. And hotmail.com. And I would go online when my mother and sister were asleep. And I made sure to clear my history. So that way I would be sneaking around, so that way nobody found out. Because like I said, I grew up in a very conservative household and my mother openly would make fun of gay people and call them, F words and things like that. So for me, it's an signal of like, okay, this is wrong. And I remember my mother, actually, I remember my mother, we were in Virginia at the time, because by then we'd moved from Missouri to Virginia. And I remember my mother reading the Bible, reading Sodom and Gomorrah to me, and her breaking down in tears and being like, I don't want you to go down. I don't want you to do this. And I'm going, okay, sis, whatever. Not telling her that I'm gay at the time, because I didn't come out. I came out a very non-traditional way. So fast forward, I don't want to keep the story too long. So fast forward, I'm looking at porn. I'm talking to my girlfriend at the time, which was, her name was Tamika Washington. I went to a school, which is now Armstrong High School, which before then was John F. Kennedy High School in Richmond, Virginia. And that was my freshman and sophomore years of high school, right? And I had crushes on damn near every boy I saw. But there was this one boy in particular, he was Puerto Rican boy. He was so beautiful to me. I just thought he was so cute. And I was very much like Janet. He doesn't know I'm alive, I was out in school, but I wasn't out to my mom or my sister. And I remember actually, let me think back. I remember actually going to my sister and telling my sister about my experience with Joey at the time. And I'm thinking, this is my sister. She's gonna support me. She's gonna be like, oh my God, I'm so happy. And nope, she was quite the opposite, very conservative, telling me that it was wrong, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, okay, well, because also during that time, when I was in Philly, I had an experience with a woman by the name of Cindy. And her birthday was December. That's so interesting that I can remember that. Her birthday was December 12th. And during this time, when I left Philly and, Joey and stuff, I would always look back because that experience really opened me up. It really did. Like, even though all we did was kiss, but that was enough for me. And I remember going through severe depression to the point to where I was suicidal a lot. There were moments where I wasn't eating. There were moments where I would starve myself. I would work out all the time, because I knew I just couldn't tell my mother and sister. Like, I just knew. And I was so afraid of being kicked out, physically, because I heard so many horror stories from other gay people and other gay youth at the time. So I was like, well, I don't want let me not tell them. So one day, and this was where I didn't cover my tracks, and this was so bad. So I'm on the computer and I'm doing my thing on the computer, right? And I see, this was when, if anybody remembers when the Visa debit cards first came out, because they had come out in the mid 90s. So I was like, oh, so I wrote the number down to my mother's Visa debit card. And I went online, and when I tell you, I went to town. I didn't realize it, but I was committing fraud. I didn't realize it, but I was going online, looking at porn, chatting with dudes, because that was my, I can laugh at it now, but that was my outlet. You know, aside from my best friend Tamika Washington, uh, they were the only, those were the only outlets I had. You know, because I got inundated with religious talk by my sister, and you know, and just a lot of gaslighting. And I'm like, well, okay, I don't know what else to do. So my escapism was through the computer, was through the internet. And one day my mother, she got up, it was I'll never forget it because it was Saturday morning. She got up to buy some shoes from Frederick's of Hollywood. And the woman was like, well, I'm sorry, ma'am, your card is declined. You know, it won't go through. And she was like, what do you mean? I've got money in there. Mind you, this is money for her shoes, but to pay the rent, bills, everything, right? So they're like, no, ma'am, you know, no. And at the time, I created different identities online. I was Diego DiMaggio because another one of my crushes was Talvin DiMaggio, the porn star who is a Virginia native, a North Virginia native. And I lived in Richmond, Virginia at the time. And he was one of my idols. And I was like, oh my God, I would love to meet him and talk with him. Because I was like 16, 17 going on gay adult sites, you know, and I used to go to a site called The Menu and oh God, Black Gay Chat and Catch's Place and Catch's Place Black and all the, and if you know any of those sites at all, drop it down below, okay? So, so they're telling the woman, the operator's telling her like, no, ma'am, your card can't go through. And she's like, why? So she calls the bank. She calls Bank of America. And they're like, well, ma'am, it looks like, do you know anybody by the name of Diego Brown? Right, clever name, right? So she's like, no, who is that? And she's like, well, apparently it's a man that he charged to see a gay sex show. I laugh at it now, but you know, gay sex show and gay chat rooms and gay porn and stuff. So all her money, and I didn't realize it, but all her money had been taken out of her account because of me. So she comes out of the bedroom, because our bedrooms were literally, her bedroom was in the middle, my bedroom was on the right. Then you had our bathroom, because our house was very small. And then you had my sister's bedroom upstairs. So, so she comes out and she's like, I'm mad as a motherfucking hornet. What the fuck is my money? Da, 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 da. And she's looking at me and I have tears in my eyes and I'm shaking like a leaf because I know my mother. She's not gonna sit down with me and go, son, let's talk a bit about this. Are you gay? And da, 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 da. She's not gonna do that. My mother sees me. She lunges at me and she starts, and she curses me out. She's like, I'm mad as a hornet. Where's my money? And before I could even say anything, she goes, pop. She hits me in the face with ball fists, with rings on, and she starts beating me. And she's like, you need to read Leviticus. How could you do this to me? All the money, da da da. Now, mind you, the next day they gave her money back. She got all her money back. But suffice to say, that's how she found out that I was gay. I never thought I would get emotional over that part. But just to experience that. And then after that, my mother would needle me about that, about the money and da 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 da. And I would go to gay youth groups, you know, eventually, and, you know, talk with people. But my mother was not supportive. And I often say that, because I've heard horror stories of kids being kicked out and having to survive on the street and things of that. And though I was not kicked out physically, I was kicked out emotionally. And that's a pain that heals, but I'll say it goes away, but it doesn't. And that's how my sister and my mother found out. And then by the time I was 21, I'm fast forwarding. By the time I was 21, excuse me, my mother and sister wanted me to go to conversion therapy, which I'm gonna talk about that. That's a whole nother video too. They wanted me to go to the now infamous Exodus International conversion therapy. And they were like, we just want closure. We just want to know if this is who you are. And suffice to say, since that time, and I'm 40 now, but since that time, my relationship with my mother and my sister, it's never really been the same. I think they love me. Well, I know they love me, but I often tell people, and I believe this to be true, I am tolerated, but not celebrated. And the one thing I've learned, and I use this quote all the time, though it's from Nina Simone, you have to learn to walk away when love is no longer being served. And with them, I had to do that. And I love my family, don't get me wrong. I'm not on here to bash them, but it left a profound influence on me. And not influence, but effect on me and how I view people. And mind you, I'm working through and on it now, but it was a traumatic experience. And though I could have done it, I could have handled it, because I look at it from both sides. I could have handled it in a better way. But at that time, you don't know what you don't know. And I knew that with my mother and my sister, I couldn't really go to them and be myself. And I would, you know, skirt around certain things. Like I would paint my nails. I would dye my hair all kinds of colors. I've worn a weave. I've worn several weaves actually. I would wear makeup. Do it all in secret, of course, but I would do all these things. And yeah, so that was my way of rebelling. That was my way of like, okay, I can come out. I'm out to this sect of people that I think they know, and I'll be out to myself, but I could never be out to the people around me. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is my coming out story. If you've enjoyed it, let me know in the comments below. If you know any of the things that I'm talking about, let me know below in the comments. I will say, for the gay community, for the young gay community at large, you're fortunate, but then you're unfortunate, because you have social media, but social media can be a blessing and curse depending on how you look at it. And I will say this, it doesn't get better. To quote Joan Rivers, it doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. You get better. And that's even for gay people my age and up. And I would just say this, if you are struggling with coming out, it's okay. Coming out is a process. It's not, that's one thing I've come to learn. Coming out is it's not for everyone. And there are levels of coming out. You don't have to tell everybody that you're gay or bisexual or gender non-conforming or non-binary. Like, you don't have to do that. The only people that really need to know is you and the divine, and that's it. And those that you trust. You know, I don't think that not coming out is a bad thing. I think you have to learn. The one thing life is teaching me is that you have to learn to pick your battles. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be open when you're ready. You know, and it's not for everybody to know. Who you choose to be with or who you choose to be is no one's business but your own. And for those of you who may be struggling, it's okay. It's all right. You know, it's a process. Be patient with yourself. And also for those of you who have a gay son, or, you know, a gender non-conforming child, or, you know, transgender child, give yourself time too. Because the one thing I've had to come to learn is, just like, it's kind of like that old saying, like, when you go to jail, the family goes to jail too. And I think it's the same way with coming out. When you come out, the family does too, but it's in a different way. because I know, and I talked to my mother about this. I know because my mother and I, we have a very complex and at times very complicated relationship. We've gotten better, but yeah, you know what I mean? Um, but the one thing about it is, I talked to her about it and she was like, it wasn't that you were gay. It was the fact that, the idea of my having like grandchildren and me being able to meet your wife and things like that, that was gone. But like I had to tell her, and I'm telling this to those of you who are watching, it doesn't go away. It just changes. It just changes. You know what I mean? Because your children may have kids, just not in the way that you're used to. Your children may have a loving husband, a loving wife, um, a loving couple. You know what I'm saying? So you have to look at it from that perspective. Every love story, every community, every family is different. And no matter what, there's still a family, there's still a community, and there's still, love is love. So that's all I had to say. I thank you guys so much for listening to me share my story. This was actually a lot of fun. I didn't realize that in some parts it would be painful, but that's a part of healing. So for those of you who liked my video, give it a thumbs up. Leave your comments. I want to know your coming out story. Have you come out to others? And if not, have you come out to yourself? What has it been like for you? What has your journey been like? And we can help each other. So with that being said, I'm Leo Brown, Sugar Bears, and I'll talk to you soon. Love you. Bye-bye.